Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Ty from the Unemployed Architects. So I'm going to get right into it here. I'm going to start with a little bit different framework of talking about a show I went to instead of the shows I've been playing. I'll get to those later, but went and saw Bright Eyes at the Castle Theater on last Sunday, and I've been a Bright Eyes fan for a long time. I really was, of course, kind of finding this out now. I'm really just a fan of one of his bigger albums called, I think it was I'm Wide Awake or Landlocked Blues, whichever the name is, has both of those songs on it. But yeah, I probably recognized about 3 of the songs, and it was great. I was kind of expecting one thing, and it was like completely different. It was I was expecting, kind of an acoustic, kind of singer-songwritery show, because that's that album that I like a lot is mostly those types of songs. It was a double release, I believe. So there's Digital Ash and a Digital Urn, along with, I think I'm Wide Awake is what it was called. But anyway, it was just not at all. I recognized 3 out of 20 played a long set, probably 2 hours or so, probably maybe a little more. And it was just fun. I don't know. He put on an amazing show. He's one of those people that, his voice just kind of sounds like him. It's not an amazing, like, classically trained voice. It's not hitting all the notes, like, perfectly, but boy, was it entertaining. And he just writes music that really fits it, ultimately. So it was a lot of fun. Lo took me for my birthday, so it was a good time. And like I said, 3 of the songs he played Poison Oak, which was one of my favorite when I was in high school. First Day of My Life, of course. And I feel like there were a couple other ones that maybe I did recognize. Everything in Its Right Place, I think, was one of them. And then maybe another one. But it says something, if you can play a show to somebody who doesn't know any of the songs and still entertain them. I feel like that is a feat, so it was pretty cool to see, and I had a really good time. So beyond that, I've had some guests on for the pod lately. Last week I put out the one with Mathian, and I had one with Kyle last week, so that'll be coming out next week, and I did one with Ryan Wolf this week, so that'll be coming out in a few weeks. And so I just haven't had as much time to touch base on the shows I've had. So I get into that. I had 4 for the last 2 weekends. Last weekend was pretty slim. Ultimately, it was Artesia Brewing on the Saturday, and I didn't have a Friday show, so that was like the first time in a really long time I haven't had, and probably again, because I don't have any gaps on Fridays and Saturdays till I think January at the end, the last Friday of the month. I haven't filled it yet, so it was just one of those days that, like, I just could not find a place to take it off my hands. I booked plenty of other places, different dates. Wasn't like I couldn't get anything. It was just that specific date. And then I had it happened where, I just kind of resolved to, that's going to be a Friday off. But I did end up and do something productive. I went over to the Jeff Easton's house, which he engineered Design to Shine, because he was interested in starting to record maybe one of my tunes. And we got going on it, and that was, it was great. It was a lot of fun. I just very organic. It was like I just picked up instruments and played them, and then we recorded it. Kind of just got a rough idea of it right now. It's a song I've had written for a long time. Digital Soul is what I'm working on. But, I want that song to not just be like me, an acoustic guitar for the studio version. Definitely going for more of like weird rock. I think Jeff said that it was a trippy Christmas. That's what he might classify it as, and that's a vibe I go for. So I was happy to hear that. And it's just different. It's not, it's not as straightforward as some of my songs. So I'm really excited to. I think we're gonna spend an all-nighter, maybe the weekend of Thanksgiving, and just try to knock most of it out. And then I think Doug Cook is gonna play some bass, and Lo is gonna sing some backups on it. And so, even though I didn't have a show, not in the black necessarily from that weekend, but productive, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm excited about having something else in the works, and I got the live album coming out at the end of December. I got my first track I'm going to be releasing after that, mostly done, and then hopefully we'll have this Digital Soul for the next one after that. Probably try to release one about every 2 months, and then hopefully I get back in with Eric, and I'll probably start kind of a more laid back acoustic one as well. So just like stuff I'm doing kind of on the side, not necessarily that I'll take to a studio. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep it consistent, all that stuff. So then 2 weekends ago, I had 4 shows. I guess that kind of makes up for the last weekend when I only had the one. I had Friday, I played at Door 4 Brewing. Saturday, I played at, it was my Bloomington, Indiana show, which was a long drive, but I'll get into that. I actually had a show on Sunday. It was the Wildlife Prairie Park, or in this case, Wildlife Scary Park, because it was, their Halloween, day before Halloween, and they'd been doing that for like 2 weeks, so had that. And then that Monday, I opened up for Drew Cagle and The Reputation. So a lot of shows that weekend to talk about. Friday at Door 4, it was a lot better than the last time I played there, that's for sure. There were no fluorescent lights on, so that definitely helped. And some of the people that were at the show that had the fluorescent lights came back to kind of show that they were into it, and they were a part of the party I was talking about last time when I talked about Door 4. So they had come, they're like, we're going to support you in a better way. And I was like, it was fun last time, so whatever you're here to do is, it's I'm going to appreciate it. And I appreciated it then, and I appreciate it now. So, and then it wasn't super busy otherwise, but there was not empty, and I did less of people pleasing set. I did threw some of my originals in there. There was one big table that took me a little bit to win over, but once I did, they were pretty into it, and that definitely helped me have a good time. And it's a quick set, 2-hour set for me is pretty straightforward. You get to the end of that, even if you don't take a break, which I usually don't, and you're just like, I left out some good ones, So, and I should probably play in my set lists, but I just I do whatever. And but yeah, so that was fun. The Saturday one was in Bloomington, Indiana, so it was about a 3.5 hour drive, and I lost an hour on the way. So that's like your whole day pretty much when you have to do that. But I gained an hour on the way back, so it was kind of a relief that way. And it was an interesting setup. They had the stage area was like up behind the bar, so like the bar was or the stage was behind it and up really high. Kind of reminded me, there's a place in Bloomington called IBC that had like a really high, like way higher stage than even this, but it was similar in that way, which I was a little like, like, this is going to be weird, and am I going to be able to get any tips, because nobody can really get to my tip box that I have with the merch in it and whatnot. And it was they had their own sound. The guy who booked it had sent me the manual for they had an X18, Behringer X18, which was hooked to a iPad, so the load-in was a lot easier, but it was up a bunch of stairs and then through a back alley and like 3 door. I don't know. It was definitely, but there wouldn't have been a different way to do it. So it's just like you had to do it, because walking through the bar would have been obnoxious. And but it was a lot less stuff, like I said, so that wasn't too bad. And it took me a second to get going, but I just feel like the people there weren't expecting me to be very good or something. Like, I don't know. It was like, it wasn't super busy, but I mean, it's like a dinner sports bar. So, around when I started, which was a late start time, it was 9:30. It was, there was a good crowd there. I think there was maybe some game on or something. And, people got into it pretty fast. Like, I was like surprised at how fast I was able to kind of catch people's attention. And the sound was a little weird because they had one monitor, which I was kind of controlling, and then they had that same signal kind of boosted to the rest of the bar, and then they had control of like the volume on that. So definitely was different than I'm used to. It was hard to kind of get comfortable at first. I should have maybe just used my vocal monitor or something like that. But again, I feel like I won people over pretty quick, and then I was doing originals, and it was kind of funny. It totally reminded me of Bloomington. Like I was playing on the square, and Bloomington, Illinois, Bloomington, Indiana, kind of on the Bloomington side would have been kind of like where McGuire's is at. And, they had like a big building, kind of courthouse looking thing in the middle, just like here. And it was a square in a college town. And I don't know, it was interesting for sure. And, I don't know, it was just weird to drive 3.5 hours to get to a place that seemed like I was in the same place, if that makes sense. But anyway, the show was fun. I was over at 12:30. It kind of cleared out towards the end, and I started doing some weirder songs just to see how they would go. And it's a long drive home, though. I will say that is a tough one, because it's done at 12:30, which is 11:30 our time. And then, out the door, I think I was close to 12:30 or 1. And then, that 3.5 hours, I wasn't home till, I think, like 4 or something. And then that made the next day a little hard, I think, ultimately, unfortunately. But it was like, so it was the Wildlife Prairie Park, and I don't even remember. I went there like one time. Like, I don't really remember what it was like. I guess I was thinking more of a zoo. There'd be like an easy place to get to. But first thing, I had the new iPhone, and wasn't told till after that I shouldn't use their maps, because it took me someplace completely not even close, like maybe almost a 10-minute drive out of the way, which turned out to be 20, because there and then back. And then that made me so late. Like, I was already out the door a little later than I wanted to be, but if I would have got there like right on time, or if I would have left right on time, I would have got there with plenty of time to set up. And then, of course, once you get there, you're kind of going through these winding roads and figuring out where and how to park. And then it was like borderline gonna rain, so they were having me play like a little bit further than I think they'd had some other people play. And I think by the time I started loading, it was I want to say 23 minutes, and I was able to really kick it into gear and get started like probably right at 5. Like, it was, maybe I was a couple minutes late, but it was pretty crazy to get it, right on. I don't think I've ever set up that fast. Of course, I didn't really need lights, and I was pretty minimal on my setup ultimately, which I think, may have come back to bite me later. But I was, again, just happy to kind of get started on time. I probably would have liked to have a monitor, but I was just beat, honestly. I just don't feel like I performed my best. I just felt sloppy all over the place. And then there was this, I already kind of felt sloppy, and then there was people taking video for the whole, like, middle part of it. So I was just like, I just feel like I could not get, I couldn't catch a flow or something. And then I was nervous, so I did a bunch of medleys of songs, and I was just like halfway through my main medley, which is like 12 songs. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. And like, I'm really feeling how tired I am and stuff. So it was a rough show, but I don't know how picky I'm really being and how good it really was, or how bad it really was, but I know it was tough for me. And then Monday, I opened for Drew Cagle in The Reputation, and so it's Nola's Rock Bars, but it was in Urbana, and so I got there, and like immediately the first thing was like, well, because I was supposed to play, I think I ended up and played the right amount, but they were like, we're cutting our set short. We're probably gonna have to cut your set short. Like 2 seconds after walking in, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just do acoustic. I won't really do the one-man band thing. And like, oh, we kind of want you to do that. So I was like, all right, whatever. And I made they were sound checking Drew Cagle and The Reputation, which was kind of interesting too, because Matthew Curry was there playing guitar for them. They had been on tour for like a couple weeks, and they had gotten Matthew Curry to play lead, and he's a great guitar player. So that was something I was kind of excited about, and it was really fun to watch him and it's a different genre for him ultimately, but watching him shred is always cool. And he brought a little bit different sound setup. He was playing out of a Marshall, which I'm assuming he probably plays out of some sort of Fender tube amp normally, but it's definitely a different vibe for him. But he definitely let loose a few times. It was cool to see him just really shred. But back to the sound. So I ended up, and while they were still sound checking, I got everything about as close to off the stage but set up as possible. And it took me like maybe 4 minutes to get 4 or 5 minutes to get the rest of the way plugged in and kind of comfortable. And then I felt like I played well. I watched the video back, and was not as pleased about it. I thought I'd be like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but it kind of went the other way. I mean, using house sound is always different, I just didn't quite feel as comfortable as shows where I do my own sound. So that was a little weird, but wasn't terrible. I just feel like I could have done better, but it was still a good time. There was more people there for a Monday evening than I expected, and it was fun to watch Drew Cagle, and I had seen him in St. Louis with his bass player, who played guitar like a lead guitar player. Played guitar maybe better than I do, even though he usually just plays bass in the band. And I got them sounding really good that night. I ended up kind of dialing them in, and so he was nice enough to have me open the show. And so I got to see their full band. They had a really solid drummer too, and the Matthew. So I mean, it was a good show. They're a lot more into the details. I think they had some like pre-recorded song setup things, and they really decorated the place. I mean, it was Halloween, but I don't know. Nobody really dressed up or anything. I had my gym name tag on just in case somebody would be like, "Where's your costume?" But because I was late and I couldn't think of anything that would be easy to be. But it turns out nobody else that was playing even did anything, so I kind of fit all right. And it was a fun night. I was back early too. I was done. I think I was loading out by like 10:30, and then I on the road by 11:30, and I got home before midnight, I think, or maybe 11:15 or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was fun. It was a different kind of set, different muscles to flex, that's for sure. And I could tell I was a little sloppy with it, but yeah. And then I had the whole week. I had the recording with Jeff, and then I was at Artesia Brewing for the Saturday. Just this tiny kind of out in the middle of nowhere place. Kind of reminded me of Cypress Grove, which is a place I played at a few weeks ago, and have a show coming up, I think, in December again over there. But usually they have people play outside, but the weather was not great, and I showed up way later than I wanted to be. But I still got set up and started on time. I gave myself about 45 minutes when usually an hour. I think maybe I was just a little overconfident after the Wildlife Prairie Park show, because 23 minutes. If I can do it in 23, I can definitely do it in 45. But it was just a little, because we didn't know where I was supposed to set up at first, because we checked the outside area, and they had some heaters, but it was really windy. And then there were people sitting in kind of the space that I was supposed to be setting up. But once I got going setting up, went through it pretty quick, and it was probably a better show than the last two I'd had. I don't feel like I was in the pocket as good as I would have liked, but I was pretty close. I was on the verge of being good in my mind, and it got a really good reaction from the crowd. They were into it. I played for 2.5 hours straight, no break. I don't know why I do that, but it's just I came there and I was running late, and then I just got started, and then I don't know. I just kept going. I was just trying to grab people. I watched this documentary. I think there's something. It's one Sonic Highways. I think that was Dave Grohl's. He did an album where he did a documentary, and he was in different studios. One of the ones I think that for some reason I've had this in my head for a long time, but it was I can't even remember what the type of music was, but it's just the music never stopped. One song just ran into the next, then ran into the next, and the music just kept going. Maybe it was just the drums would tie it together, but for some reason that has been in my brain since I saw it. So I'm always trying to do all these medleys and keep the energy up, and I guess that's the way I felt that night. It was I had to win over the crowd, and I just kept playing classic covers, and then I'd throw in one of my better original, or more upbeat originals. Not better, just more upbeat. And there was a guy that wanted to play cajon with me, and I was okay. I actually saw him kind of beating on the table, and he was seeming like he knew what he was doing, and he was really into it. So he's I know this is weird, I gotta ask, because I don't have any musicians to play with. So I was yeah, you could play a song. And then we ended up and did a couple. And just having a little bit of extra percussion is, makes the set more upbeat and fun. So it was cool. And 2.5 hours, they gave me a free T-shirt, which I was excited about. And then they do some beekeeping, I guess. So they had a bunch of a thing of honey that they gave me for free, organic fresh honey. So that was really cool of them, and the owners were just super generous towards me in general. So it was a fun night. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the upcoming weekend. I just have 2. Tomorrow night I'm in Peoria at Cruisin's, and then Saturday I am back to Indiana, but I'm in Indianapolis this week. Or this weekend on Saturday. It's just called The Tap. So it'll be an adventure. Not quite as long of a drive as Bloomington, so I'm happy about that. But I pretty much have a lot of just 2 weekend shows coming up, or 2 shows per weekend coming up. No, we're kind of out of the season of getting so many extra. And then, and just an announcement, I guess, is I'm gonna be in Nashville. Got some Nashville shows booked, so I'm excited about that. That's coming up first weekend in January after the new year, so that'll be an adventure. So I'm excited to see what it's all about. And Kyle and I talked about that when he was on last week a little bit, so you'll see our conversation about that next week. So yeah, good times as always. I appreciate anybody who takes the time to listen, and I will talk to you next time. All right, have a good one.